Hello, thank you so much for joining us for this very special RTS conversation to celebrate new BBC four-part drama, Marriage, created and directed by Stefan Golaszewski and starring Sean Bean and Nicola Walker. And this is a series that follows Emma and Ian as they negotiate the ups and the downs and the high points and low points of 3 decades of marriage. And it is a really beautiful, heartfelt, genuine examination of their relationship. I'm really excited for you to see it. I'm delighted we've got a fantastic panel with us today to talk about the series. And before I introduce them to you, I'm very pleased to say they've got a little sneak peek, a bit of a flavour of the show. So let's have a look at the trailer.
Why was it so hard to ask him if he could do me a jacket potato?
I can't believe we're having an argument about jacket potatoes.
27 years on Thursday.
Oh, don't.
Everything that's happened, good times, bad times.
You need to let me help you.
How was your meeting with Jamie?
You've invented this entire situation. I won't be controlled by your jealousy.
Just let me put the dishwasher on.
Oh.
The romance.
So let's welcome our panel. I'm pleased to say that Sean Bean and Nicola Walker are with us, who play Emma and Ian. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for being here. And we're also joined by Stefan Golaszewski, who created and directed the series. Hiya, Stefan.
Hello.
Hi.
It's,
Feeling a bit under the weather, but I'm so pleased that you're all with us, which is really great. It's so good to have this opportunity to discuss the show. Stefan, I'm going to start with you because it's all come from you. What was your initial inspiration? Why was this something that you wanted to explore in a drama?
Oh God. I don't know really. I suppose there's lots of little things, but one of the things was that so often you find in fiction that marriages are things that people are desperate to get out of, or terribly sad in, or keen to sort of people seem to be keen to cheat quite a lot. And when you look around yourself, you kind of see all these people sort of just trying their best and trying to cling to happiness and trying to make things work and finding things hard and getting things wrong, but sort of acting out of hope rather than malice. So I suppose I wanted to tell that story.
And where do you even start with that? It's such a, marriage covers so much. Where do you even begin? Was it with the characters? Was it with certain aspects of marriage you wanted to explore?
One of the earliest things was the handhold that's at the beginning of episode 1 across the aisle. I saw 2 people do that on a plane, and I just thought it was incredibly beautiful. They hadn't been arguing like they do in our show, but I just thought that act of looking after each other, that sort of summed up quite a lot. So that was sort of one of the early images that I had.
And they're 27 years into this marriage. Why was that the point you wanted to pick for this couple?
I suppose it's longevity. They have a function. It's been going on for 27 years. I suppose also there's room for the shine to have come off, but for them still to be finding a shine in it. Yeah, that sort of thing, I suppose.
And did you have Sean and Nicola in your mind? I mean, awkward was the right here, obviously, but did you know what kind of?
Neither of us.
What kind of people you wanted to cast? Where you wanted to go with the?
I never have an idea when I write it, because also, I mean, you don't assume that anyone's going to be interested. You know, as a writer, you assume the worst. You assume your script's going to go out and everyone's going to hate it. So you would never. It would be terribly presumptuous to write something for an actor, really. I think in that way, and also I think it can close down the options for progressing the characters as well. If you've gone, if you go, oh, it's going to be this person. Yeah, I don't think it really works like that. It never has for me, anyway.
But you've done very well going with that.
I can believe it.
Sean and Nicola, let me ask you both, what drew you to this and why you were initially interested? Sean, maybe you go first.
It was just such an interesting script and so unusual and just unique. I had to read it as you have to read it as the whole piece, as you have to watch it as a whole piece, all 4 episodes together. I think to fully kind of appreciate what the minutiae and the sort of fine detail and pathos that Stefan's created within his scripts and his photography, and it was just something that's it. It was unusual. It's like nothing I'd ever read before, and I always like something that's different or a challenge, and I was just kind of, you read a lot of scripts and stuff, and some of them are very good scripts, but they don't have kind of that amount of detail or description or subtlety, and that I can see where Stefan was coming from. That he kind of looked like he'd acted this through himself, these characters himself, because the way they speak is so natural, and the way we mostly all speak, really. We're all quite hesitant, and we change our minds mid-sentence and say, yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. No. It was all those little details that attracted to me, and just the subject matter was quite interesting. The fact that they'd been together for 27 years, and I wondered I was quite interested to explore a relationship or what a marriage would be like after 27 years. And I kind of, I think that as Stefan said, they do have still have a shine for each other, but it's getting through the everyday kind of nitty gritty and little bits and bobs that make this so interesting. And so it's a brilliant script and brilliant writing.
That's similar for you, Nicola. You're nodding.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel exactly the same. And Stefan was the draw for me, and he'll sort of probably hate me saying that, but Stefan was the main draw straight away. I'm a fan of his work anyway, and as Sean says, you wanted to read all 4. And there is such a reward for reading all 4 and for watching all 4. It is a complete world he's built, and a complete story without. Often in drama, we have to have hugely dramatic moments and revelations. Like Stefan says, a lot of the time, the format of drama now means that something has to happen at a certain point in each episode every week. When I read these scripts, I just thought, well, here's Stefan completely rejecting that, that pattern, and writing about these 2 people in the most honest way. Awful things have happened to them in their 27-year marriage, but that isn't where we meet them. But you do see the effect that has realistically in a long-term loving relationship. It's the fact that it's both difficult at times and joyful, and a lot of the time it's it's just life lived. I haven't seen that on television before, so that's what drew me.
And had you known Sean before? I mean, it seems a lot to go from a standing start to representing 2 people that have lived 27 years with each other.
I didn't know Sean before. My husband had worked with Sean on when Sean played Macbeth. We worked out, it was quite a few years ago. It was a bit awful when we realised how many years ago.
20 years ago this year, I think.
Yeah, so my husband played Banquo to Sean's Macbeth, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
May I say? At the point when Sean's Macbeth said she should have died hereafter about Lady Macbeth, I've never seen anyone play it as beautifully as that. It was incredible, and I'm a fan of his work, obviously. I kind of felt when I was told that Sean was playing Ian, I just breathed a sigh of relief, because I thought, okay, we're going to be absolutely fine, because he's such an exquisitely fine actor, and you're going to be very safe with him. And that's exactly how I felt. And then on top of that, we had Stefan give us a full week of rehearsals before we started filming, which is unheard of now. I remember doing it when I first started acting when I was 22. I remember you used to rehearse for a week before you started a drama, but that has long since become a thing of the past. So that was incredibly helpful. Well, it was just brilliant, actually. It's brilliant fun just to be with Stefan and Sean for a week in a marquee, a COVID-safe marquee.
Sean, is it a challenge to create that chemistry and familiarity with someone that you haven't spent 27 years with, or is it just the job of an actor? What's your take on it?
No, it wasn't with Nicola. I mean, it seemed to. And thank you, Nicola, for complimenting on Macbeth in particular. And and your husband he's a smashing guy, smashing actor, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with him. And just thought I'd say that. But with Nicola, I've seen Nicola's work before, and obviously I'm really impressed. I think she's a great actress, and there's a reality and a natural kind of aura about her, that she simply plays the characters truthfully and honestly, and that shines through, and that comes through on screen, and so to have the opportunity to play against like that with the toilet. So, but to have that opportunity to play with Nicola, to play a husband and wife, to play a husband was fantastic. And as Nicola said about the rehearsal, that's a luxury these days, having that amount of time to rehearse and get to know each other. And we got to know each other, but I think we clicked pretty quickly, and it was. We got to know each other, but we were very focused on our work, but it felt very natural, and I think we had a wonderful chemistry. And I'm really, really happy that she was playing my wife.
Stefan, you're obviously in the good books for providing this rehearsal time that has really paid off, and you can see on screen. How much more backstory did you have in your mind that maybe wasn't in the page and didn't make it to screen? Did you do a lot more thinking about what else might have happened in those 27 years?
Not like I'd never sort of write biographies, or even I've often been told in the past to write down what the character's like. And I don't really like doing that either, because you never meet the same person twice, do you? It's like a river. You meet someone one day and they've changed the next because of what's happened to them in the intervening period. So the idea of pinning someone down in some adjectives just isn't very truthful. So I try to avoid a kind of biographical sort of backstory, kind of paragraphs of it. And it also, because then also you end up blocking the actors in as well, because they will bring they bring the life to it. So I have an idea in my head of who these people are and how they would behave in different contexts, and sort of what their personalities are built from and why they're like that, and all of that. But in terms of, I mean, I didn't really know what Ian's job was either until I spoke to Sean, and then just because you don't want to pin these things down. You need to be able to tell the truth at all times, as much as you can. And if you've pinned down too much stuff in advance, I think it can create a barrier to that a little bit.
How do you guys feel about that, Sean and Nicola? Because we see these little snapshots, sitting by a graveside or referencing something that happened years ago. Do you feel that in your head when you're doing those scenes, for example, Nicola?
So some other actors have told me that it veers between either I'm the laziest actor they've ever met, or they use the word instinctive. I am not a massive fan of backstory. for the same reason that Stefan was saying, people don't give up themselves that easily when you meet them. You don't meet somebody and they don't often tell you, you know, everything about themselves that brought them to the place they are that day you meet them. And everything I needed was on the page. And if it wasn't on the page, brilliantly, I could ask the writer, who was also the director. So it was a brilliant position to be in. But I'm not. Yeah, I don't use backstory like that. I never really have. I tend to do it scene by scene, moment by moment, and unfortunately, that's how Stefan writes his scripts as well, I think. Yeah.
How about you, Sean?
Yes, that's absolutely right. I mean, there's, as Nicola mentioned earlier, he broke the formula and this kind of pedestrianised way we have it looking at drama. There's got to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's got to be a bit of sex. There's got to be a bit of action. There's got to be this and that, and it's so boring. I mean, I'm so bored of watching a lot of programs these days, especially about detectives. I don't know why people are always making stories about police detectives, because all the characters end up repeating themselves and telling then the next guy what just happened. And I hate reading detective novels as well. I'm just going to go off the subject now. It's an example. It's the same old kind of structure. And when I watched this, I was quite shocked in that he's, that pattern. And I thought, yeah, that's right. And it doesn't necessarily follow on. Life doesn't follow on. You, as Stefan said earlier, might be all right one day, and somebody might be a right miserable twat the next, because you don't know what's happened in those 24 hours in between. And that's it. And this drama, he said it just dips in at a moment in time, in 2 or 3 weeks in these people's lives. You could drop in another time, or in another 3 years, or backward another 14 years, and you'd probably have a totally different story. And that's it. That's what fascinated me. That's what Stefan. I thought he's so brave and to do that. And I just hope it makes. I just hope people don't get comfy watching. I don't think they'll get comfortable watching this, but they'll constantly be questioning what's happening, and who are these people, and because they're enigmas, and they're like all of us, really, because we all, as Nicola said, somebody says, "How are you?" You say, "Oh, great, yeah." You're going to say that, aren't you? You don't say, "Well, shit, actually, I've been in a conversation," whatever. And so it's like we're all putting on an act, and we are in the show. I mean, Nicola, we're always putting on an act, most of the time pretending we're all right, while underneath we're seething or we're incredibly depressed. And it's just a study of two people in a long marriage, and with all warts and all. But the fact is that it's striking, and it's quite shocking, really. And I love that kind of thing.
Yeah, there are moments in it that just really it's so exciting to me to see a scene when you imagine there's a moment when Ian it looks like the family's getting on really well, and Ian makes a joke and it's received really well by his daughter, and normally in drama that's your end point, that's your dramatic moment, that Ian, the father who's found it difficult to speak to his daughter, cracks a joke and everything's better and we all eat our food. And it ends on and what Stefan does is a great example of what he does. He has Ian say the joke again, really. And it's awful, it's so painful because the joke has gone well, and that's an example of how true his writing is, I think. I mean, I've seen members of my family do that at family dinners, in the hope that you've got somewhere with this person that you're trying to reach in your family. And I think normally in drama, those things are pushed and made grotesque for entertainment. And I just they love each other. This couple really love each other. And I don't think, as you know, Stefan was saying earlier, I don't think, you know, it's not celebrated very often in drama, a couple that have been together for a very long time, who there is so much love, there's so much history, but it's not, you know, it's not a fairy tale televisual drama marriage. It's a truer one.
And Stefan, what I love is how you've got, you know, alongside glimpses of some big moments in their relationship, you've got the arguments about the jacket potatoes that they've obviously had more than once, and you know, those moments. How challenging is it to seamlessly put those two things alongside each other?
I don't find it particularly challenging, because I think they're just aspects of the same thing. They're just you know, it's a bit like I don't know. I'm about to talk about something that I don't really know what I'm talking about, but you know, when you get like a, you know, in like sound waves or whatever, you know, sometimes it's like that, and then sometimes it's like that, and that's, you know, it's the wave of the relationship. It's just a different volume or whatever it is. I don't know. They're just I think, as long as when I was writing the sitcoms, people seemed to be interested in because they asked me questions about it, about the fact that it was sort of funny one minute and sad the next, and it's, I think if you're just doing your best to tell the truth, sometimes that will sort of emanate as funny, and sometimes it'll emanate as sad, and in this case, sometimes it'll emanate as something enormous, and sometimes it'll emanate as, you know, just Ian moving her shoes yet again. Those are just the little bits of detritus that our lives are built of. But that isn't a value judgment. That is what our lives are built of.
Sure, let's talk a little bit more about Ian, if that's okay. He is in a strange place in his life, that he's out of work, and it's all a bit excruciating. It's an interesting place, I guess, for you to explore this kind of almost impotence and not being able to do anything in the day.
Yes, it is, isn't it? I imagine he was quite a, you know, conscientious worker and very good at his job. You know, not that it would excel. I don't think he's kind of an ambitious character in his, you know, professionally. But I think he would be a person that did his job well and was very fastidious. And then to lose his job was that was a huge part of his life taken away from him. And I guess a lot of people these days are facing that, especially people in the 50s and 60s who are still competent and able-bodied people, but for some reasons, maybe it's, you know, kind of technology and stuff, that people lose their jobs, and that's it. You know, it's like you leave on Friday night, and that's it. That's all gone. It's gone away then, and so you have to cope with filling up 24 hours a day and being, you know, kind of feeling as though you're getting in the way in the house, and you know, getting under people's feet, you know, wife's feet. You know, it's just and trying, but still trying to have that kind of worth ethic of you know, he goes into the garden a lot, and he goes into a shed, starts painting things, hoovering and killing ants and stuff like that. The kind of worthy things that are, you know, that are necessary for a man to do. And but it's not enough, really. And then he starts going to the gym, you know, and that doesn't go all that well, because he kind of, you know, he puts across the wrong idea. Someone gets the wrong idea about him, and he's not very comfortable with the other men. And you know what it's like in gyms. I think you don't have to be in to feel like that. But you know, and the fact that, you know, he's suffering a recent bereavement, and his daughter is not quite clicking, and his wife's doing well. You know, she's, you know, just as he's on his, you know, he's down on his luck, his wife seems to be taking off, and then this other character comes into it who could be some kind of love interest for her. So it's all really not a very good state to be in for Ian at this moment in time. And but you know, he feels as though he can't speak to her because she's always too busy now, and she's always, you know, and he doesn't want to spoil that dream and that for her, you know, because he loves it. He can see that she's excited and she's passionate about what she's doing and she's getting somewhere, you know. He doesn't understand it at all, you know. He doesn't understand the kind of terminology that she keeps using about spreadsheets and this and that, whatever. But he's happy for her, but at the same time, he's quite jealous as well, you know. He's kind of been torn apart inside. The fact that he thinks she could be having an affair with this other guy who's younger than him. She's got a better car. It's only slightly better, but, you know. But I mean, that's you know, I can't really think of anything. I just think it's just in a limbo and he's just floating around like a ghost in the house. You know, it's neither here nor there. He doesn't know what to do with himself.
But it's interesting that, because Stefan mentioned about infidelity, and she's not interested in that. It's more insecurity, isn't it, rather than
yes. Yeah. He's an insecure man. You know, we all are at times. You know, and this kind of celebrates that this story, and shows it. You know, so somebody, as Nicola said, it's not going to all get better all of a sudden. There's still other things that are, you know, like in life, there's one thing might go well, the next thing another problem comes up. So you're constantly balancing and trying to address these problems. And we're not trained to do that. And we haven't been to school to do things like that. We just do it day by day as best we can. And you know, we think we're doing all right, but you know, we don't really know, do we?
And Nicola, for Emma, you know, she's trying to be excited about this move forward in her career, and then, you know, she can tell that he's not quite thrilled for her because he's got his own issues going on. She's in a difficult situation, isn't she?
Yes, I mean, I think, yeah, Emma's got some dreams for her job, but I think she knows that she's supported by Ian. That's the great thing about being in that marriage. Yes, Ian does have the potential to be jealous. That's not a new discovery for her in the show, because they've been married for 27 years. So it's a bit of a bump in the time we see them. And I think it's glorious that she still has these hopes for her job, her career. You know, comparatively in other dramas, her hopes are not, her ideas are not groundbreaking, but they are for her, and in her world, it's a huge thing for her to follow that dream. And I love that as well. You know, you could. I don't think she'll be judged by the audience. You know, I think what's interesting is that she is still fighting to move her career forward. That's the interesting thing for me, and that how different she is. Stefan was very clear about that, and it's a brilliant piece of direction. You know, the different faces we wear, the different personalities we are with different people, and that's brilliantly illustrated with the Emma that we see at work is a completely different woman to the Emma at home, and the Emma with her dad. You know, it's playing a fully rounded individual because she has lots of different faces.
And I think the relationship with the dad is so recognizable to a lot of people, you know, and we don't necessarily always see that on TV. It's slightly cantankerous, but there's love there, but there's so many layers to it. Was that quite interesting for you to explore as well, Nicola?
Yes, because it was the Bolan as well, you know, the finest man walking. I've always wanted to work with him, and yeah, just a delight to be with him off and on camera. I think you're right. I don't think you see that very often, that difficult relationship between a grown-up daughter and her dad. I was trying to think if I had seen it anywhere before, not like this. And the difficulty with that I found early on was that you know, I imagined maybe some of the scenes with him should be more acted, maybe, maybe, and Stefan very beautifully talked me down from that, because you're meeting them on that day at this time. I think maybe I did a version of it at one point that was probably a bit in rehearsal, that was very dramatic, and I look back now and feel a bit embarrassed about that, because I was trying to force it to be very clear to the audience what this relationship is like. But of course, they don't know. Emma and her dad don't really know. They're swimming around in this very complicated, delicate, stalking around each other a lot of the time, which is far more interesting than what I try to offer up Stefan in the rehearsal week. Yeah, they were fantastic. I loved all the scenes in my dad's house. They're really hard. They were really hard to do in a really, really good way, because it was painful. It was painful to not receive the love that I wanted.
Stefan, I mean, it's interesting that you include that relationship, but of course, in any long-standing marriage, family becomes part of the marriage, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's quite useful to understand Emma's relationship with Ian and Emma's relationship with Jamie through the lens of her relationship with her dad, and just in the sense of her relationship with power as well. Because the thing with Jamie isn't, I don't like to say anything too I quite like people to just make up their own minds about what the thing's about, but I think you're absolutely right that she doesn't seek to have an affair with Jamie. But what she is doing is she has a discomfort. She doesn't quite know how to behave around power. And she doesn't quite know how to be herself around power. And I think the fact that Ian is like he is, adoring of her, and in no way trying to overpower her most of the time, I think that's sort of kind of the bedrock of her need for him, and why do any two people suddenly meet each other and go, oh my God, I love you, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you? What is it about the kind of the deep stuff that they're completely unaware of that's going on in both of their personalities that emanates above ground as love? It emanates above ground as love, but what's actually going on is tons of stuff underneath the ground that you got no idea of, and that might only come up 20 years later. That is actually why these people have connected. And so I was trying to get to the sort of the fundamentals of why these two people were bound so inextricably. And so the dad's quite useful to help with that.
And on the other side, their daughter and her boyfriend, their relationship is a really interesting juxtaposition, because I think anytime you think Emma and Ian's relationship, or is it a bit mundane or whatever, you see it as so glorious in comparison to this potentially coercive and unpleasant relationship. If you could talk a little bit about that and how you wrote that.
Yeah. And again, there's a sort of there's a bit of a fracture working its way through the generations there, from dad to daughter, and Jessica's trying to make decisions about partnerships. So again, it's sort of slightly in the light of her relationship with her father, slightly in the light of her seeking her individuality, just as everyone does not just when they're young, just as everyone does, but also perhaps as you would if you were adopted, and perhaps if you were adopted by people who had a different ethnic background to you. And so she's sort of she's looking for a hook to hang herself on. and Adam provides such a hook. But I think she knows that it's an unacceptable relationship, but I think she also gets something out of it, and I think her journey is to realize that she doesn't need what she thinks she's getting.
Emma's certainly not impressed, is she, by this guy and how he treats her daughter?
No, but that as well is just beautiful writing, because I've got one son, and he's we're not quite in that territory yet, but we're edging around it, the having a partner. I think the show brilliantly captures the fact that as a parent you really have to keep your mouth shut, and that's quite difficult for Emma in the home, because I think that's brilliant what Stefan was saying about, Ian allows Emma to be herself. She is strong in that house, in those four walls. She's a slightly different side of her. But when it comes to their daughter, they both know that they really have to step back. When they do actually say something, literally, two sentences each, one sentence to her, it's not received well, it isn't, because it's really difficult. They know that you can't tell people how to love, who to love. They know that after 27 years.
Do you think we get a different side of Ian as well, Sean, in those scenes when we're seeing him as a parent?
Yeah. He doesn't like the first guy, does he? But he just gets involved with it. He's pretty obnoxious, and we don't like him. We didn't really like him very much, but we couldn't really say that much. As Nicola said, you can't tell people what to do. You can't put old head on young shoulders, as they say, can you? But we were I think we were kind of parents that were sympathetic and understanding enough to maybe let it run its course, and should get fed up with him or realise what he's really like underneath. And unfortunately, that kind of happened, and to our relief. And we like the other guy, we're really pleased about that. I was slightly gloating at the fact that she's dumped this other guy, trying to kind of gently, cover over the fact that we're really happy underneath. Then we almost like taking the piss out of the first one, which is not very nice, but he wasn't good for her, so that's all we're bothered about. That's all you're bothered about, isn't it? Really, as a parent, the prospective boyfriend or girlfriend is good for them, and that your daughter, your son's happy. And sometimes you have to keep your mouth shut, as Nicola says, because it usually works in the long run, I think.
I found, Sean, the scenes where we go in and we're clearing out her bedroom, like we've got some of our stuff in her bedroom when she's going to come home and visit. I found those scenes just they're so beautiful. They're so sort of really illustrating that we've kept the room exactly how it is, because she is the center of our life, and that we clear it out when she knows she's coming back, because she needs it to look like her bedroom as much as we need to keep it her bedroom. I just think that's just beautiful.
Yes, she don't want to think we've been moving all the stuff about and shit and bin liners. So, out of respect for her and for us, isn't it?
And just finally, I kind of wanted to go back to what Stefan said at the beginning about this being actually, in the end, a positive and quite optimistic view of a long-term marriage. And there's a scene that you guys have just outside the train station where you're sort of kissing like teenagers, and it's so beautiful, and I love it. Did you ultimately feel, this is a marriage that we're championing, and actually there is an optimistic message here? Sure.
No,
or not.
Championing.
It's just the word's weird.
Well, you know what I'm trying to say. I feel like
we're championing it, Sean.
I'm talking accent now, but it's it's just kind of, you see glimpses of that kind of just that pure kind of, love, and sweetness and kind of out of the blue, and just, you don't know how it happens. It sometimes happens that way, doesn't it? It's I guess yeah. I mean, it is the great marriage they got in a way, if you look at it that way, because they go through all these depressions and these ups and downs, but there's every now and again you see this glimpse of that love coming back from perhaps when they were teenagers or young in the 20s. You see glimpses of that, just bang, pings in here and there, and it kind of balances the thing quite beautifully, I think. Sorry.
What do you think, Nicola?
No, I was just saying that I think I can't even say it. Championing.
Sorry.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine Stefan sitting down and thinking, either that he's going to champion marriage or dismiss marriage. He just puts a marriage in front of you, and that's up to you. What how you react to it. Emma and Ian, if you dropped in on them now, they would be doing what they're doing in that show. They would be, they would be continuing. They have a life that continues, and that's what's most interesting to me.
Stefan, how do you hope that people will sort of reflect on their own marriages after watching this? What do you hope that they will get from this? I'm interested, because it's just interesting what you said at the beginning about, usually long-term marriage and drama means someone's going to cheat or someone's depressed and going to kick someone out. It's not often that we see it like this.
I think I just hope, all I ever really want to do is present as closely as I can, as truthfully as I can, the world as people experience it. And I think people experience the world as tricky, and being a person is really hard. Waking up every morning and finding that you're a human, and being sat with someone and you have to speak because you can, whereas cats get away with it because they can just sort of slide on past each other. Whereas when you're a person, you've actually got to say something, and then as soon as you say something, there a whole world of problems come about because every word has too many implications. So just the struggle of living in this world and being a person, and having a house and having to pay for stuff, and having insecurities that don't really make much sense, and not knowing anything for certain, not knowing what you feel, not knowing what to say, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. That kind of fundamental uncertainty is what I guess I'm trying to represent in a way. And so when you say, what do I hope people take away? I just hope that people connect with it and feel that we're talking to them about what it's like to be them, rather than what it's like to be a kind of happy, clean, simplistic, sanitized TV person who knows what to say to everyone and knows what they feel, knows how to express it, and never goes to the toilet. My little boy said that to me yesterday. He said, he's 8, and he said, Daddy, why does no one ever eat or go to the toilet in TV shows? Wait till you're old enough to watch mine.
Right.
What a beautiful note to wrap this on. Thank you. Thank you so much, Stefan. Thank you to Nicola. Thank you to Sean. Thank you as well for watching. Marriage will arrive on BBC One and iPlayer very, very soon. So watch out for it, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.